Upper Galilee is full of exciting destinations. Here are the amazing Bahai Gardens of Haifa on Mount Carmel. This religion began in the 19th century and teaches that history has brought increasing divine revelation through the various faiths, and the most recent being the Bab, or the Gate of Bahai. The Lord is just another in the midst of a long string of teachers.
On the Sabbath, we worship the Lord with the Tents of Mercy congregation, with His people, in His land, acknowledging His first coming and looking for His return. Nearby is Ein Afek, another well-preserved Crusader fort. The location reaches back to early biblical times, but is most noted because King Richard the Lionhearted recuperated from an illness here. The place gets its name because of an abundant spring here. The birds and wildlife love this place too.
In the northwestern pine forests of Israel is another Crusader castle that was controlled by the German Teutonic Knights. Eventually, the Muslims captured and destroyed it. Later, the Muslims rebuilt it. Green vistas can be seen in every direction from the fortress ramparts. Jews came here after World War II and established a kibbutz. They set up defensive positions and had to fight for the right to remain.
Close to the border with Lebanon is another ruined synagogue, Baram. No mosaic floors found, but it has a nicely carved facade. Also, there was a lentil inscription from here stating, "Peace be upon this place and all the places of Israel." A Maronite Christian church is maintained but locked today. This ruined village once belonged to the Maronites, who were sent away during the First Arab-Israeli War. Sadly, it seems to have been a lively and picturesque place. According to tradition, the prophet Obadiah and Queen Esther were buried here, but this may be for medieval Jewish pilgrims' sake. Yet, maybe even the Lord made it here, since it is said He preached in all the synagogues of Galilee.
Not far away on Mount Meron is the tomb of Ben Yochai, creator of the Zohar, or Jewish mysticism. This movement came about because of the Pharisaic legalism that predominated in Judaism after the destruction of the temple. Again, certain Orthodox sects come to recite Yochai's words and pray for enlightenment at his tomb.
Moving along, we come to Tel Hazor. Archaeologists make a pun that it's always hot here, and the work will leave you sore. Hazor is noted as a stronghold city that Joshua conquered and burnt to the ground. The ruins of many fine buildings and extensive fortifications are found here. The palace shows destruction by intense heat. The northern outpost of Israel is Metula, directly on the border with Lebanon. The 9,000-foot-high Mount Hermon looks down on the town.
The mighty spring of Tel Dan is one of the 3 water sources of the Jordan River. The flow comes from several smaller sources in the area. The name comes from the tribe of Dan, who moved here from the south and built huge fortifications like these. But this location is also infamous for the altar and the golden calf set up by Jeroboam, usurper of the northern kingdom of Israel. These stones led to the temple, which housed the idol. This mud brick gate goes back to the time of Abraham, a man who turned away from such idolatry.
Further to the northeast is the Hermon Spring, which causes a lovely waterfall downstream. This is Caesarea Phillipi, and the spring is another source of the Jordan. The spring used to flow out of the cave, which was known as the Gates of Hades. There were many pagan temples here, and so much influence of false worship. The Lord instructed his disciples that the gates of hell would not prevail over the truth.
Across the road is another Crusader structure built upon by numerous conquerors to follow, and a huge Herod palace is there too, with another Jewish synagogue to appease his subjects. On a distant mountaintop is the Muslim fortress called Nimrod, designed to block Crusader advances into Syria, which it did. There is a well-preserved ancient Jewish farming village called Katsrin in the Golan region. Of course, there is a synagogue in the village. At some point, it had a colorful mosaic floor, but hardly any of it was preserved.
Also in the Golan is the fortified city of Gamla. A rocky, windy ridge path leads down. The synagogue is very traditional and has a history back to the 1st century. Perhaps here too the Lord preached about the kingdom of heaven. But the Jews, a generation later, sought an earthly kingdom, rebelled against the Romans, and caused the eventual destruction of the Jewish nation, Jerusalem, and the temple. There are also ruins of a Byzantine village. Here are the ruins of the church. Gamla is part of a nature preserve and a place where large vultures nest. The Gadot Lookout is perched above the upper Jordan Valley. There is a memorial for Israeli tank soldiers here, and many Syrian defense bunkers around the site.
Below is Chastelet Fortress, which was the Crusaders' own defensive structure to block any Muslim advance into Israel. Yearly excavations are uncovering additional information why the fortress fell within 2 weeks after being attacked. It seems that it may not have been completed, and the walls were tunneled under, causing it to collapse. You can visualize the Muslim army on the high ground sending all kinds of missiles toward the Crusaders. The fortress was built to guard Jacob's Ford, the first place in northern Israel where it is possible to cross the Jordan. Perhaps even the Lord crossed at this very point in his travels throughout the Galilee.